Hello, everyone. Welcome back here to Star Flag Media. Today is May the 14th. It's a little after midnight here in the East Coast. So, we're going to be doing a late night slash early morning video talking about a couple of things today. First up, we're going to be speaking about Super Mario Brothers, the movie, and how Disney has taken notice of its success. Next will be an opinion piece on Kotaku.com about The Legend of Zelda's file size. And then finally, to end on Tears of the Kingdom, we're going to be talking about Digital Foundry's performance for the game itself. Let's start off here with the Super Mario Brothers movie. So, as it's released, the Super Mario Brothers movie has been a huge success, breaking box office records, earning more than $1 billion at the global box office. It's making it the most successful video game movie ever. It's such a breakout success that Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, has gone out to congratulate Universal Pictures. During a quarterly earnings call on Wednesday, he goes on to congratulate the rival studio for the box office success of Super Mario Brothers movie and cited the video game film's success as an example to his suits that moviegoers still love animated films enough to open their wallets and go to the actual movie theater. So this is Iger's quote. Says, "Good afternoon, everyone." Iger said at the start of his earnings call, "Allow me to digress for a moment to congratulate Universal for the tremendous success of Super Mario Brothers. It certainly proves people love to be entertained in theaters around the world, and it gives us reason to be optimistic about the movie's future, or the movie business's future." So basically, as we all know, Disney has been hurting at the box office, and while Disney isn't doing too poorly right now because they released Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which, of course, finally was the first movie to outperform the Super Mario Brothers movie after weeks and weeks and weeks of it dominating the box office. But besides that, Disney have had flops after flops on their hand with the Toy Story spinoff Buzz Lightyear having failed to, I think, crack 200 million or 250 million worldwide. They were pushing agendas there. They added things specifically to that movie just to push certain agendas. They went on record to say so. And then they also removed Tim Allen, who, has his political views and leanings from the film. They replaced him as Buzz Lightyear's character. His voice was a completely different person. And the movie itself just wasn't as entertaining, especially for such a, being in the same universe, even though it is considered a spin-off as the Toy Story franchise. It really just flopped. It made, around $200 million, which isn't spectacular. Respectively, also, Strange World was a huge flop for them, making around $100 million globally. So, I mean, these are two huge budget films, animations that they put out there that completely fell on their faces. Disney is kind of backtracking now. Maybe they put too much emphasis on their agendas, or perhaps people got comfortable with Disney Plus having the films right after movies theaters releases. Who knows? But Universal basically goes out there and they put their Illumination Studios to make these movies, and they've had huge hits on their hands, like Despicable Me, the Minions, and the Shrek spin-offs like Puss in Boots. All have done huge numbers at the box office. So it's not like the families aren't trying to go out there and see these films. It's literally, these films have to be catered to a family audience. So perhaps they need to reevaluate what they are going to be doing with their future franchises, and especially with the Little Mermaid ready to come out around the corner. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to that film. Uh, this article here continues. It says, to Iger's credit, even Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto was surprised by Illumination's box office success with the Mario movie. Shigeru Miyamoto goes on to say, I did have a level of expectations that this movie would also do well, but I was very surprised that it went beyond what I would have imagined when it finally came out. You need some luck to achieve this level of success for a film. While many foreign critics have given the movie relatively low ratings, I think that also contributed to the movie's notoriety and buzz. So, again, the critics, when they first see this movie, just went all over it. Oh no, it's such a cookie cutter experience. And, as a movie goer, when you go see this film, it's a fun experience. It's Super Mario. It's exactly what you expected from it. Instead of having the princess be the damsel in distress, in this case they did kind of switch it up a little bit and made her more of a player, which is totally fine, because if any video game player has any experience with the Super Mario series here in the United States, anyways, we all know that Princess Peach has been a character that has not always been the damsel in distress. She definitely has been a character you can play as in the Super Mario Brothers 2 United States version, as well as Super Princess Peach. So, having Luigi being captured and still having to go after Bowser and fighting him so that he doesn't capture the princess, I think that was perfect. I think the movie was fun. It was entertaining. It wasn't anything more than what it needed to be. It was just a fun experience, around 90 minutes, and an excellent film to go take your kids to and not have to worry about what you may have to explain on the ride home. Um, that is, the news that we have right now for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think it's an excellent film, and apparently so does the CEO of Disney. The next topic that we're going to be talking about right now is the Tears of the Kingdom. It's an opinion piece here by Ethan Gatch, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And the title on Kotaku, it says, Tears of the Kingdom is smaller than a Call of Duty patch, and that's great. The Breath of the Wild sequel, as we know, is around 16 gigabytes. Which is crazy when you think about today's world, right? Now you're getting a patch for a Call of Duty game and it's 50 gigabytes. And you just, if you don't have a huge hard drive or extended memory in your device, there's no way. You're basically you're playing a Call of Duty machine all the time. And trust me, I have friends that their PlayStations and Xboxes are just Call of Duty machines. The article says, like many others, I just bought the digital version, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, on my Switch. I paid for the game, exited the eShop, and then just started downloading. No prompt to delete something else to make room, no minor crisis over deciding of which a half a dozen unfinished games on my console would get the boot. The download finished quickly, and then I started playing. Simple, right? And yet, I can't remember the last time installing one of the biggest games of the year went so smoothly. Most modern blockbusters have file sizes of at least 50 gigabytes. The biggest are over 100 gigabytes, and well over it, with the standard PS5 and Xbox Series S storage drives being around 500 gigabytes, with even less space available purely for storing games. It doesn't take long before downloading the next hit or even a small indie game leads to headaches. Do you really have time to be replaying The Witcher 3 right now? Should you put God of War Ragnarok on hold while you finish Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores DLC? What if you just play one more hour of the latest random 2D Souls-like, download it before you deleting it? Star Wars Jedi Survivor threw this whole gauntlet into overdrive. The game was huge. The patches were huge. The patches kept coming. It says, I love what I've played so far, but man, that whole part sucks. God help you if you have online multiplayer game that you jump into regularly like Destiny 2, Apex Legends, or Fortnite. And if it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, well, you're out of luck. Hence the surge of relief when they saw Tears of the Kingdom and didn't have to deal with any of that. You have 128 gigabyte micro SD card in the Switch, and never pressed up against the invisible barrier of the storage limits. Nintendo is renowned for optimizing Switch games, and with file sizes routinely half of what ports like Doom 2016 require, Tears of the Kingdom is only 1 gigabyte bigger than Breath of the Wild, despite an entire new crafting system, a much bigger map, and a ton more voice acting. It's a small marvel, and one can appreciate now more than ever. And version 1.1 day patch, you know how big that was? 300 megabytes. So, of course, we understand 4K textures and huge amounts of cutscenes and things like that will add to those file sizes. But when we're looking at patches, for example, on a Call of Duty game, it's not just those things. It's in my opinion now, to go away from the opinion piece here from Kotaku, it is that developers, you know, have gotten to a point where they don't optimize anymore. They don't have to optimize anymore. Back in the day, you made a disc, and it had to ship on that disc. You were limited to that size. So you weren't just cutting corners, you were optimizing the game. You were making sure that everything worked perfectly, that it was compressed just right without losing what was true to those games. And Nintendo, contrary to what modern gaming consoles are today, they're kind of working with older hardware and older styles of storage. So they still are using those methods to make their games today, and they're purely perfection when it comes to that. When you look at a game like that runs on a system that is 1080p, that can do 60 frames per second, but if you really want to push the hardware to its limits graphically, then you're going to lose on frame rate. So we're looking at 1080p 30 frames per second for most games. And when you look at that, you would think that this would hinder your experience, but the scores and reviews have certainly shown otherwise for Tears of the Kingdom. Right now, it is on OpenCritic.com, which is an aggregate website. They take all of the reviews together and come up with a one big score. Has Tears of the Kingdom rated a 97 out of 100, and that is their highest rated game in the history of video games. And that score can change as reviews come in the next couple of months, but as it stands right now, it is the highest reviewed, the highest rated game ever. And on Metacritic, which is very similar, it is standing at a 96 out of 100. So it's not, this is a game who is out right now in the era of PS5 and Xbox Series X and the highest end PCs and Steam Decks, and it's a game that runs at 1080p 30 frames per second, and it outclasses and outscores everything else that's out there. It's very interesting to me, which brings me to the next article here from Digital Foundry. So Digital Foundry, of course, is well known for testing games and seeing how they can push these games to their limits. They check the frame rates, they check their graphic capabilities, their resolution, and they make reports and they do their fantastic videos. If anybody out there has never seen a Digital Foundry video, they probably have your favorite game on there, and they can, put it up against other consoles, things like that. So here we have what they have found out to the performance for The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. So the title says, Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom performance on Switch sounds like a minor miracle. There have been a lot of buggy blockbuster launches recently, but it doesn't sound like Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom will be one of them. Nintendo's latest big exclusive for the Switch has impressed many reviewers so far as it so far with how it runs on the 6-year-old hardware, with even Digital Foundry's experts marveling at how well it performs on that console. Back when previews dropped for the game, it seemed like there might be some big concerns around frame rate drops and handheld mode performance, with anecdotal reports of slowdown when crafting complex vehicles or flying between floating islands. Digital Foundry reports, however, that a pre-release patch massively improved all of those things, alleviating the concerns. It's a game changer. Nearly every instance of major performance loss has been corrected, resulting in a game that now holds very closely to that 30 frames per second target, John Linman says over at Digital Foundry. Nearly the entirety of my video capture managed to maintain that solid 30 frames per second, at least in most instances, for which the Switch running a game this fast and emergent is downright impressive. There are still some dips, mostly around using Link's new Ultra Hand ability to combine objects and useful machines. When it first initiated, the game can drop to 20 frames per second, and in busy areas like Kakariko Village, Linman points out, however, that these moments are few and far between, so it does not make up any issues and does not affect your experience. Graphically, Tears of the Kingdom looks very similar to Breath of the Wild, despite the 6 years separating them. Still, there appears to be slight improvements in draw distance, shadows, and clouds, and mist effects. The game also apparently loads around 30% faster on average when traveling, according to Digital Foundry's metrics. Handheld mode also appears to fare pretty decently too, with the maximum resolution output is capped at 720p, and thus occasionally drops below that threshold. It apparently looks great on the OLED Switch, as one might expect. The frame rate does drop more often in handheld mode than it does in docked, but also doesn't seem to be a deal breaker as it doesn't happen often. So Basically Nintendo says, we don't have new hardware coming out in 2024, but one thing that they do is they will delay a game if it's not working up to what they believe is their standards. So this is why it's very rare to have a Nintendo game that ships broken. Looks like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was a little dodgy at first, and they came out with a first day patch that was 300 megabytes, and it fixes almost all of the issues that people were having with the original build. It's impressive, So we have this masterpiece from Nintendo. And it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of haters out there. It's very easy to hate on a game like this, especially after Xbox got reamed for Redfall not being a 60 frames per second game with ultra HD 4K resolution. Well, the difference is that that's what Xbox is going for. That's their target. That's what they're selling you. They're selling you a 4K box that's supposed to perform at 60 frames per second. So when you get a game like Tears of the Kingdom on a handheld, basically it's a tablet. You take those Joy-Cons off and you're looking at that thing and it looks like a tablet, right? That's what it is. So when you take an overclocked tablet and you got a game as massive as Tears of the Kingdom that runs at the degree that it does, and it's impressive and beautiful to look at, and graphically that game is going to hold up in 10 years time. You're going to look back at Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and it's still going to look good, just like Wind Waker still looks good to this day. So what can you say? Nintendo has a big hit on their hands. I think that this is going to sell a few million units easy, and it'll probably push a few new people to buy a Switch, and definitely a lot of repeat buyers for that Legend of Zelda version of the Switch itself. Let me know what you guys think. Is this a game that has impressed you graphically? Have you picked it up? What did you think of the Disney CEO, congratulating Universal Pictures and Nintendo on their huge success? Do you think that there's going to be more along those lines of movies for Disney? Do you think they're going to change anything on their end? I'm really curious to think or to see what you guys have to say about that. Let me know with a comment down below. We have been having some audio issues in the last few videos, trying to sync up the video with the audio. So hopefully I've got that corrected in this one. If there is anything that I can do to fix or improve the videos, feel free to let me know. Hit that subscribe button and like if you like the video. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. All engagement counts. As always, you can follow me at twitter.com at starflagmedia and twitch.tv/starflagmedia. As always, thanks for gaming.